Most people think dropping 70 bucks on Scotch is already pushing the limits of sanity. But then you wander into the world of expensive Scotch, a parallel universe where bottles cost as much as a weekend escape, a mortgage payment, or a used car with questionable brakes. And the wildest part? Some of them deserve the hype. Others? They're basically designer labels wrapped around decent whiskey. Today, we're ranking 15 expensive Scotches from bottom to brilliant, not by prestige or bottle shape, but by what actually matters: taste, presence, and whether the price feels like celebration or heartbreak. Let's begin at the bottom. 15. Macallan Rare. Cask Macallan Rare. Cask is the kind of bottle you see in upscale hotel bars. Polished, dramatic, and determined to convince you you're looking at royalty. It leans on the idea of exclusivity. A tiny portion of Macallan's casks supposedly meet the standard for this release. The flavor is undeniably rich, swirling with raisin sweetness, polished oak, vanilla, and a dessert-like softness that makes you understand why people fall for sherried Macallan in the first place. But here's the truth. At $310, you're paying heavily for the aura. It's luxurious, yes. Stunning bottle, absolutely. Yet when you compare the liquid to what else exists in the $300 range, Rare Cask feels a little like the Scotch version of buying a designer hoodie. You're mostly paying for the name stitched across the chest. A memorable pour? Definitely. A great value? Not even close. 14. Chivas Regal, 25. Chivas 25 tastes like old money. Polished edges, no sharp corners, nothing wild enough to scare anyone away. It's one of the earliest prestige whiskeys ever marketed, and it carries that heritage with pride. You get elegant layers: orange peel, dark chocolate, butterscotch, dried fruit, all blending into a velvet-smooth finish that makes it feel expensive even before you look at the label. But the experience is more refined than exciting. At $380, you're paying for lineage and presentation as much as the whiskey itself. Enthusiasts appreciate the impeccable balance, yet many admit it doesn't have the kind of personality that justifies the price for flavor alone. It's the Scotch you pour for guests when you want to look sophisticated, not necessarily the one you reach for when you crave something unforgettable. Smooth? Absolutely. Thrilling? Not exactly. 13. Johnnie Walker Blue Label. Johnnie Walker Blue Label is the universal "I bought something fancy" gift. Fathers get it on birthdays, CEOs get it in boardrooms, and half of America has seen it wrapped in gold foil at Christmas. It's smooth to the point of softness. Honey, roasted nuts, subtle smoke, chocolate, a gentle fruitiness. Nothing about it feels harsh or complicated. That's intentional. Blue Label is engineered to be effortlessly drinkable. But at $220, the experience doesn't quite match the mystique. It's beautifully blended, but careful and polite in a way that leaves little room for surprise. Many cheaper single malts deliver deeper nuance, while Blue focuses on prestige, consistency, and the kind of universal appeal that works in every setting. It's luxury that plays it safe. For many people, that's enough. For flavor seekers, it's a starting point, not a destination. 12. The Glenlivet 25XX. This is the point in the countdown where the price tag jumps from expensive to my bank app is sweating. Glenlivet Rex Festives is a gorgeous Scotch, silky, layered, and deeply mature. It brings dried figs, polished oak, old leather, cinnamon, dark chocolate, and a slow, warming richness that feels like sinking into a velvet armchair. The Oloroso sherry finish adds elegance without overpowering the core Speyside character. But at $775, expectations skyrocket. For some drinkers, it meets them. For others, the experience feels caught between beauty and restraint. It's refined to perfection, but refinement sometimes hides the dramatic notes that make ultra-aged Scotch unforgettable. 25 shines during milestone moments, anniversaries, promotions, end-of-year victories. But it doesn't quite crush the competition at this tier. Stunning? Yes. Dominant? Not quite. 11. Lagavulin 16. Lagavulin 16 is the first bottle in this ranking that can start family arguments. To peat lovers, it's sacred. To Pete haters, it's a campfire soaked in seaweed and medical tape. But to anyone who appreciates complexity, it's one of the most rewarding pours on earth. You get slow-burning smoke, salted caramel, dried fruit, oak, iodine, and that unmistakable Islay swagger that made Lagavulin an American cult favorite. At $110, it's technically the affordable whiskey on this list, but it earns its spot among the expensive crowd because of the emotional weight it carries. This is the Scotch that opens the door to smoky whiskey obsession. It's bold, it's dramatic, and it has more identity than some bottles quadruple the price. The only reason it sits at number 11 is simple. Older bottles above it bring even deeper layers. But this is where legends begin. If you're enjoying this ranking so far, hit like and subscribe. It tells YouTube you want more bold, honest breakdowns of pricey bottles instead of another generic review. Plus, it helps me justify these research expenses when I'm explaining receipts later. 10. GlenDronach 21. Parliament. GlenDronach 21 feels like stepping into a room filled with antique wood, warm spices, and desserts your grandmother only made on holidays. This is the bottle people whisper about when they want sherry influence done with intention, not marketing. You get dark fruits so thick they feel spoon-worthy, layers of cocoa, old leather, Christmas cake energy, and a slow-building richness that rewards every patient sip. At $310, it instantly reminds you why sherry-aged whiskey has its own dedicated fan base. Yet it doesn't taste like something forced or over-polished. It feels lived in, deep, warm, story-driven. Every blend of Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso casks adds character rather than clutter, forming a whiskey that makes you pause and nod, almost unconsciously. Still, it sits at number 10 because the flavor leans heavy, almost indulgent. Incredible for certain nights, but not always the bottle you reach for. Think of it as a luxurious winter coat, stunning, comforting, and adored, but not for every season. 9. Highland Park. 18. Viking Pride. Highland Park 18 isn't here to shout or overwhelm. It's the calm, charismatic friend who wins the room without trying. One sip rolls out honeyed sweetness, a touch of smoke drifting like a campfire fading into the night, and that signature heather note Highland Park fans never shut up about. It's balanced in a way that feels almost too smooth, like someone quietly perfected the formula decades ago and walked away satisfied. At $185, it becomes one of the most dependable, serious Scotch purchases you can make. There's something effortlessly enjoyable about how everything blends together. No single element tries to dominate. The subtle smoke lifts the sweetness, the fruit softens the oak. The whole thing feels like a well-rehearsed orchestra, confident and controlled. It ranks at number 9 because its strength, its balance, is also what keeps it from climbing higher. You won't get gigantic surprises or wild shifts in personality. It's elegant, refined, and reliably delicious. But the bottles ahead take bigger risks and land bigger punches. 8. Glenfiddich 21. Reserva Rum Cask. Most people think of Glenfiddich as the safe choice, but the 21-year rum cask finish flips that idea on its head. Suddenly, the familiar Speyside softness gets dressed up in tropical warmth. Caramel, ginger, citrus peels, toasted sugar, and the whole thing feels like a Scottish vacation with a Caribbean passport. It's friendly, uplifting, slightly playful, and somehow still mature. At $280, you start to appreciate the craftsmanship behind the finish. The rum influence doesn't take over. It complements, adding a subtle brightness that lifts the aged spirit rather than overshadowing it. The result's a whiskey that tastes both luxurious and fun, which is surprisingly rare in bottles at this level. The only reason it lands at number 8 is because its charm leans toward the approachable side. It's spectacularly enjoyable, but not as brooding or emotionally heavy as the bottles above. If whiskey had a perfect for celebrations category, this would be the poster child. 7. The Dalmore 18. Dalmore always looks like it belongs on the top shelf of a billionaire's yacht, and the 18-year expression tastes exactly the way the bottle looks. Rich, dramatic, unapologetically dressed in dessert flavors. Think orange zest dipped in dark chocolate, roasted coffee, sticky dates, and luxurious oak smoothing everything out. It's bold and polished, like someone stitched three different after-dinner treats into one glass. At $325, the whiskey feels extravagant in the best possible way. The finishing process, American oak, then sherry, adds a layered sweetness that makes each sip deepen. There's this sense of indulgence that makes you want to lean back, close your eyes, and pretend you just closed a major business deal. It sits at number 7 because while the flavor is stunning, it leans heavily into richness. Not everyone wants their Scotch to feel like a 5-course dessert, and sometimes you crave something less ornate. But if luxurious, velvety whiskey is your thing, this one hits like a grand finale. 6. Laphroaig 25 Year. This is where the smoky world grows up. Laphroaig 25 carries the peat, the seaweed, the medicinal kick, the stuff that made the distillery famous, but now it's wrapped in calm maturity rather than chaos. The edges soften, the sweetness rises, the smoke turns elegant instead of aggressive. You still get that unmistakable Islay identity, but it's delivered with the confidence of a spirit that's had decades to understand itself. At $525, it becomes an experience rather than a simple pour. Each sip shifts, first ocean air, then gentle sweetness, then embers fading into warm spice. It's balanced in a way younger peated whiskeys rarely achieve. You feel the age, not as heaviness, but as refinement. Why number 6? Because even though it's extraordinary, it speaks primarily to people who already love smoke. For the peat faithful, it's a revelation. For everyone else, it's a beautiful bottle sitting just outside their comfort zone. Either way, it's undeniably masterful. 5. Talisker 25. Year Talisker 25 feels like standing on a cliffside at dusk while waves crash below and cold air rushes past your face. The maritime identity is unmistakable, yet the age adds restraint and polish. Instead of the fiery bite younger Talisker bottles carry, this expression moves slowly, unfolding like a story told by someone who's lived enough to savor the details. Sea spray gives way to baked apples, peppery warmth, light smoke, and a finish that lingers with almost meditative calm. At $950, this is a whiskey people buy for moments they want to remember forever. Every sip carries a sense of place, sky's rugged coastline woven into each layer. The limited releases add an extra sense of gravity. You don't stumble upon this bottle, you hunt it. It lands at number 5 not due to flaws, but due to personality. Talisker 25 has a poetic quality, best appreciated slowly. It's less about decadence and more about immersion. For those who want Scotch that feels like nature expressed in flavor, this bottle is a masterpiece with a quiet voice that still commands attention. 4. Springbank. 21-year whiskey fans treat Springbank like a sacred text, and the 21-year expression reads like its most cherished chapter. Everything about it feels handcrafted, from the production methods to the unmistakable Campbelltown character. There's coastal funk, waxy richness, dried fruit, salted caramel, and an earthy depth that makes the whiskey feel alive. Nothing comes across as designed for mass appeal. It's raw, complex, and soulful. At $975, this is less of a purchase and more of an initiation into a community that values authenticity and scarcity. Springbank's tiny output means bottles vanish from shelves almost instantly. Collectors scramble. Enthusiasts whisper tips on where the next shipment might appear. Opening one feels like unlocking a vault. It ranks number 4 due to its intensity. The whiskey is brilliant, but it asks engagement. It pulls you in, encourages contemplation, and rewards patience. Some drinkers crave elegance, others crave adventure. Springbank 21 sits firmly in the latter camp, offering an experience that stays with you long after the bottle returns to its box. 3. Macallan, 25-year, Sherry Oak. This is the Scotch nearly everyone recognizes, even people who don't drink whiskey. Macallan 25 carries an aura that few bottles can match. The moment you pour it, the color alone feels luxurious, deep mahogany glowing with sherry richness. Then the aroma arrives with dried figs, polished oak, cinnamon, cherry, and warm baking spices. It smells like an old library scented with fruitcake and antique wood. At $2,550, this is less a casual purchase and more a celebratory declaration. The whiskey delivers incredible texture, silky, rich, layered, with each sip moving through dried fruit sweetness, spice, and a long, warming fade. It feels like someone engineered the flavor profile to whisper heritage at every turn. Still, it takes the number 3 spot since the price surpasses emotional meaning for many drinkers. The bottle is magnificent, yet sits in a realm where cost overshadows flavor for all but the most dedicated collectors. It's a trophy piece, a status symbol, and a genuinely wonderful whiskey, but eclipsed by expressions that offer equal beauty without requiring a small fortune. 2. Macallan 18-year Sherry Oak. If the 25-year is the trophy, the 18-year is the legend you can actually meet. This is the bottle that convinced countless Americans that Scotch could be elegant without losing warmth. The sherry influence comes through with remarkable clarity, raisins, ginger, oak polish, and a gentle sweetness that never becomes heavy. The mouthfeel sits right in the pocket, smooth but not syrupy, refined without losing energy. Respect, yet remains within reach for major life moments. Promotions, milestone birthdays, once-a-year celebrations. It feels luxurious without drifting into that should have been a mortgage payment territory. It also carries a universal appeal. Novices appreciate its smoothness, while seasoned drinkers admire its balance and depth. The reason it reaches number 2 is simple: consistency and emotional impact. Every pour feels intentional. The whiskey tastes like a masterclass in sherry-aged Scotch, familiar yet quietly remarkable. If you want one bottle that feels undeniably premium while still maintaining a touch of approachability, Macallan 18 stands almost alone in its category. 1. The Balvenie 21. Portwood. Balvenie 21 claims the top spot not through rarity or extreme age, but through sheer charm and craftsmanship. This whiskey feels like warmth in liquid form. The portwood finish creates a symphony of honey, berry sweetness, toasted nuts, and soft oak, all wrapped in a silky body that never overwhelms. It's romantic, expressive, and quietly confident. The kind of Scotch that makes even non-whiskey drinkers pause after their first sip. At $320, it offers something rare in this ranking: emotional generosity. You're not paying for a marketing myth or a collector's frenzy. You're paying for a whiskey that simply tastes extraordinary every time the cork comes out. The profile shifts enough to stay interesting, light fruit here, deep sweetness there, yet remains harmonious from start to finish. It takes number 1 since it strikes the perfect midpoint between luxury and humanity. This isn't a bottle you hide for prestige. It's one you open for memories, shared moments, and nights where good company meets great whiskey. Balvenie 21 doesn't try to impress, it just does. And that's the lineup. From beautiful overpricing to bottles that genuinely earn every quiet, reflective sip. Expensive Scotch isn't just about age or labels. It's about how it makes you feel in the moment. So tell me, which bottle deserves the throne and which one got exposed tonight? Drop your thoughts below and I'll see you in the next deep dive. Cheers.